On this episode, I'm going to show you how Jurassic Park isn't actually about dinosaurs at all, but is instead a pro-life propaganda film trying to convince you that birth control is evil. Yeah, no, I'm serious. Welcome to Movie Diver, the show that deep dives into story theory at the movies. My name is Richard, and today I'm going to convince you that Jurassic Park, one of the most beloved films in the history of cinema, isn't really about dinosaurs, technology, reckless science, or capitalism, but is actually about the evils of birth control. I'm going to do this by following the story from the perspective of the hero of the movie, Dr. Alan Grant, played by Sam Neill, and listing the critical points in the beginning, middle, and then end of the plot that show us loud and clear what this movie is trying to tell us. But before I do that, I want to make it perfectly clear that while I absolutely will convince you that Jurassic Park is a pro-life propaganda film, I do not believe that the director, Steven Spielberg, is a pro-lifer. The truth is, I have no idea. I'm not sure if Michael Crichton was either, nor do I have an inkling of the opinions of any other member of the crew or studios that were involved in the making of that film. It's important for you as a movie fan to understand that while many aspects of a film that you end up seeing on the screen were planned and intentional, you'd be surprised by how many things that you saw that were not. And this can be particularly true of story themes. When writers are tasked with creating a new screenplay for the movies, or indeed adapting a novel for the big screen, the act of creating a logical plot that has minimal holes and growth for the characters is a really hard thing to achieve. Just coming up with a plot that appears to make narrative sense is a major achievement, and sometimes filmmakers can be blissfully unaware of what the progression of a plot actually represents on a thematic level. Now, this video will assume that you have already seen Jurassic Park. If not, it's not going to make much sense and have spoilers and point out that you're a loser because you've never seen Jurassic Park. So if that's you, loser, stop this video and go watch it and then come back to the Cool Kids Club. So, with all those disclaimers out of the way, let's dive right in, shall we? Let's start at the beginning. In order for a movie to have a theme, you need to have a hero that has a lesson that he or she needs to learn by the end of the story. The best way to think of this is to find a question that appears to be posed to the hero at the start of the story, see how the hero answers that question, and then see if that answer changes by the end of the film. Boom, you've got your theme. Many people mistakenly point to Dr. Grant not being technology capable, but that's not a question, that's just an aspect of his character that has little to no bearing on how the story plays out. And it doesn't change one little bit anyway. Instead, we see Dr. Grant scaring the bejesus out of a snot-nosed kid who dares to suggest that a raptor looks like a 6-foot turkey. We as an audience enjoy seeing the snot-nosed kid being scared, but some of us also asked ourselves, what's all that about? Turns out it was all about a question that was posed to Dr. Grant by his life partner, Dr. Ellie Sattler, played by Laura Dern, way before the story actually started in a way that we could see it. And the question was, do you want to get jiggy with it and have a baby? We know this is the case because in the very next scene we see Grant saying to Sattler, you want to have one of those? And her responding with something like, not that one, but a child might be nice. His response to this question is pretty telling. Not only does he not want kids, he says that they're noisy, messy, expensive, and they smell. They smell? That's a pretty illogical argument against having kids. Why is that important? Because we as the audience are supposed to not agree with him resisting being a parent. And a good way to do that is to see him make an illogical argument against it. It's important to point out as well that Sattler is a herald character type, in that her role is to make sure that the hero is involved in the story and faces up to challenges that need fixing. Heralds don't need to learn lessons, they are already exactly who they need to be and exist as an example for the type of person our hero has to become. A getting jiggy with it baby maker. To round out the beginning of the story, we meet Nedry, the bad guy, I guess you could call him, of the film. Nedry is motivated by greed, but his only leverage to getting money is by delivering dinosaur babies to Hammond's competitors. As Nedry's fellow conspirator says, it's all about viable embryos. They're no use to them if they don't survive. What is key here is twofold. The movie is saying that babies are valuable, and if you do anything selfish in relation to them, as Nedry does, then you are headed for disaster. Okay, let's do the middle. Everyone arrives at Jurassic Park and then they're in that laboratory but also birthing thing. And this is when the other herald in the story, Dr. Ian Malcolm, played by Jeff Goldblum, absolutely clearly, with 100% directness and clarity, states the theme of the movie. They find out that there is no unauthorized breeding in Jurassic Park because a lack of control in this area is a security risk. Sattler is upset by the idea that the development of embryos are tampered with to ensure that they are born female, and Malcolm states it as clear as day: life will not be contained. Life breaks free, life finds a way. He says to Hammond that the kind of control they are attempting is not possible, and that this will bring their downfall. And yet people are distracted by the robot arm taking the egg out of Grant's hand and think that this film is still about technology. You see, as soon as Malcolm learns about the restrictions on reproduction, he's able to predict what actually happens later. Life crashes through barriers painfully, he says, sometimes dangerously. You mean like a T-Rex busting through a fence? So then Hammond's grandkids arrive and Sattler taps back into the theme ring as the herald and gives Malcolm a spell from the wrestling match by trying to force Grant into riding in a car with the kids. I mean, she's not hiding this. No one is. Lexi literally says to Grant that Dr. Sattler wants her to spend time with him and that she says it would be good for him. I mean, they're not even trying to hide it, people. So off they go, and of course Nedry executes his cunning plan, and of course everything goes to hell. Then it's time for Malcolm to tag back into the ring when Grant asks him if he has kids. Of course he answers that he definitely does. He loves kids, he says. Anything can and does happen. He then goes on to say that he feels the same way with wives, that he's always on the lookout for the next ex-Mrs. Malcolm. The message is clear. You are supposed to want kids, Dr. Grant, and if you don't, you may lose your life partner. Now we're at the sequence where the T-Rex does a whole busting through the fence shenanigans, and it is here that Grant is forced to choose one out of two possible roads. But this isn't exactly a hard choice for him to make, because when Gennaro, the lawyer, abandons the kids in the car, he's going to be selected as the very first victim of the park. This is punishment for literally running away from his responsibility to be some kind of caregiver or parental figure for kids in danger. So then the awesome T-Rex attack happens, and when you think about it, you realize that the entire sequence is about children being in danger. The challenge is clear. Who will stand up to protect them as all good parents would? Grant solves the problem with the flare, but Malcolm has one more lesson to teach Grant, and this complicates the situation. He doesn't understand how to use the flare effectively, so he puts his own life in danger to participate in saving the kids. He's not stupid. He knows he's not equipped to properly help, but he does so anyway. He is willing to sacrifice himself if that is what is required to protect children. It is the extreme embodiment of parental instincts. To round out this sequence, before Grant can climb the tree that Tim is stuck in, he has to calm Lexi down. She keeps repeating that he left us, he left us. She doesn't keep repeating that a T-Rex almost ate her, which is probably what I would have been saying. The most horrifying thing to her is that an adult ran from his parental responsibilities. Grant's response is short, sharp, and to the thematic point. That's not what I'm going to do. Oh, look who's becoming a good little baby daddy. As we approach the high water mark for the middle of this story, shortly after, Grant discovers dinosaur eggs as they are walking through the jungle. It is a critical moment for him in his character arc. He says that Malcolm was right. Life found a way to reproduce through the use of amphibian DNA in the process of spawning dinosaurs. His realization is not that technology or money is evil or that he can now use computers. He has learned that procreation cannot be denied. Okay, the ending. When Grant and the children reach the electrified perimeter fence, we see that their relationship has reached a high point where Grant even has the thought of pretending to be electrocuted. Of course, this foreshadows Tim's own electrocution when Sattler unknowingly turns the power on again. It is in this moment that Grant achieves the closest level of being a parent he can in the given circumstances. Tim is unconscious and his heart has stopped. Grant gives him CPR and revives him, giving him the breath of life, if you like, and allowing Tim to be reborn. It is at this point that Grant has reached the final stage of his character arc within the pro-life thematic premise. I admit it happens way earlier than you would normally see in a story, and this adds to the disguise of the true theme of the movie. But ask yourself, what other lessons does Grant, the undeniable hero of the story, need to learn? The answer is none. His remaining task is to escape the island with his spouse and the children alive. And when he achieves this, Sattler is able to watch the children sleeping in Dr. Grant's arms. Her face is one of happiness and satisfaction with the man that he has become. A parent. And that's it. Done. Case closed, Your Honour. I know. I'm brilliant. I convinced all of you. What's that? Some of you are still not convinced by my incredibly eloquent and compelling argument? Okay, you asked for it. I want you to hold on to your butts because I have a bucket load of thematic symbolism in the film that I haven't even mentioned yet. At the start of the movie, the gatekeeper is the man who is killed by the female raptor, one of a whole bunch of men with technology trying to control Mother Nature against her will, in this case entry or birth into the world of Jurassic Park. Hammond arrives and offers to fund their research as long as they see his park and pen a testimonial. He describes the park as having attractions that will drive kids out of their mind. When Grant asks what are those, Sattler makes the joke that they are tiny versions of adults. In the chopper ride to the island that Jurassic Park has been built on, we see that the helicopter is buffeted by wind shears and everyone needs to buckle up. Grant is bemused to find that he has 2 female seatbelt connectors. This is funny and not surprising to Malcolm the Herald. Grant demonstrates his ability to solve problems by tying the seatbelts together, but he does so in a way that symbolizes a surgical sterilization. On the tour, when Grant exits the moving vehicle and everyone follows him, he walks with Tim and Lexi falls down. Grant helps her up, asks if she's okay, and then Lexi doesn't let go of his hand as they continue walking. This pleases Sattler greatly, the first sign that Dr. Grant is progressing on his journey to being a parent. When the vehicles break down at the T-Rex pen, Grant can be seen checking the front vehicle that the children and the lawyer are riding in. When he returns to his own vehicle, he reports to Malcolm that their radio is down as well. Malcolm asks him if the kids are okay. He says that he didn't ask and can't understand why they wouldn't be. Malcolm, the parent, says that kids get scared. Again, he will shortly be proven very right. Okay, I'm starting to get a bit dizzy. We're still going? Okay. When Hammond realizes that Jurassic Park has been hacked by Nedry, his first thought is to ask the game warden to go into the park and get his grandchildren. Another example of parental instincts at work. When Nedry is killed, the final tag of the sequence shows the embryos that he carries in his pocket being returned to the earth. It is a burial of sorts, signifying that a death took place when they were taken out of cold storage and robbed of the chance to be born. Okay, if you see me collapse right now, I want you to dial 000. Or maybe you should. Yeah, you should. You know, don't wait. Just dial. You know. Okay, good. More. Ooh, okay. After Grant discovers Malcolm was right, he is now sharing parental instincts by taking the opportunity to teach the children about the dinosaurs and the world that they are in. His interactions with them are completely different now that he understands how bad it is to prevent procreation. When Grant and the children settle down in a tree for the night, he puts his arm around each of them. At that exact moment, he feels a pain in his backside, the fossilized raptor claw that he used to scare the obnoxious child at the dig site at the start of the movie. He promises to stay awake all night so Lexi can have a chance of sleep, and then throws away this symbol that represents his rejection of being a parent. Okay, that's it. There is no way that you cannot be convinced anymore, especially that last one with the throwing of the raptor claw. I'm going to lie down.